So what is disc golf and how do you play it? Some of you know it as golf, but with a frisbee, but let me tell you, there's a little bit more to it than that. Salut, bonjour, and welcome to JustDisc. If you're new here, welcome. This channel is all about providing you with informative, quality disc golf content so that you can enjoy this game just a little bit more. Today, I'm going to explain to you what disc golf is and how to play it. I won't be going into too many specifics, but I will give you the gist so that you can go out immediately after this video and start enjoying this great game. If you didn't know, disc golf is one of the fastest growing sports in the entire world, and for good reason. If you don't believe me, check out my Is Disc Golf Getting More Popular video and you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, disc golf is very similar to ball golf, but instead of trying to get your ball into each of the 18 holes, you are now trying to get your disc into a chain basket. You throw from designated tee pads, and your objective for each hole is to have your disc resting in the basket in as few strokes as possible. Whoever has the fewest strokes at the end of 18 holes wins. Now, to count your score for each hole, disc golf uses the par system, which is identical to ball golf. This system is the average number of throws it should take the average person to finish with their disc in the basket. Now, this par number is based on difficulty, and things like hole length and obstacles will help decide what the par should be. For instance, if you were to get on a par 3 your disc into the basket in 2 strokes, you would then get a birdie. So you would subtract -1 from your score. Now, if you were to play the same hole but get it in 4 strokes, you would then get a bogey. So you would add +1 to your score. And if you were again to play that same hole but get it in 3 strokes, so the par of the hole, your score would then stay the same. You would not add any numbers or subtract any numbers. So par is always a good thing. Evidently, there are several rules for disc golf. For this video, I'm not going to go into the entire list of rules because that is a video in itself. However, I will give you the basic, most important rules so that you can get started today. If, however, you want to know all of the rules of disc golf, visit the pdga.com/rules to get more info. Now let's talk about courses and where to play. The best thing about disc golf is that most courses are free. I hope you heard that correctly. They're free. Now, it just depends on where you play. Some closed-off parks are going to probably charge you a small fee, but I would say for the majority, you do not have to pay a thing. All courses vary in terrain. It just depends on the location. Most courses are either 9 or 18 holes, and the holes are measured in feet or meters because disc golf doesn't take up as much space as ball golf. Now, most holes for most courses are gonna be a par 3, and they're gonna average around 200 to about 350 feet. However, there are other courses that have par 4s, par 5s, and they go all the way up to 1,000 feet, so it just depends on where you're playing and the level of difficulty. And one thing that's awesome is that it only takes about an hour to 2 hours to complete a round. So you're often left with additional time to play another round or even a third round, and you can still get back home in time to complete the task for the day. So how do you find a course near you? Well, in my opinion, there are 2 options. The first option is to use the pdga.com and look at their verified courses map. Now, the second option is the easier and better option, and that is to use the UDisc app. Now, this app you can download for free, and it uses your GPS location to find the nearest disc golf course. It also tells you how the course is reviewed or scored, so you can see if there are any problems before visiting. Now let's move on to discs and where to buy them. A common mistake that I see on the disc golf course for beginners is using a frisbee instead of a disc. Now, a frisbee, as you know, is meant to glide. It's meant to play catch. It's not meant to throw far. Whereas a disc golf disc is heavier, it's more aerodynamic, and it requires the entire body to throw properly so that it can cut through the wind and get maximum distance. Now, a typical disc is going to range anywhere from $10 to $20 US. It just depends on the type of disc that you're buying and the type of plastic. Now, if you didn't know, there are 3 categories of discs to choose from. The first is the driver, and the driver, as you know, is meant to get a lot of distance. It's more aerodynamic, it cuts through the wind better. A mid-range is going to be a little bit thicker, and this is still meant for getting some distance, but it's meant for more precise shots, maybe some tunnel gaps. maybe some approach shots. That's what you would use a mid-range for. And the last is a putter, and the putter is going to be the thickest because it's meant for catching into the chains. It's meant for being precise. It's not meant for distance whatsoever. Now, please don't feel like you need to go out right now and buy a driver, a mid-range, and a putter. There's no need for that. You can honestly play disc golf with one disc. And I would highly recommend starting out with a 5 or 6 speed disc. I would highly recommend the Mako 3. It is a perfect beginner disc. And if you rush and buy a fast speed driver, you're not going to be able to throw it as far as a mid-range disc. And if you want to know why, check out my flight rating system video. But if you really hate that one disc idea, get a starter pack. It comes with a driver, mid-range, and putter. They are all very beginner-friendly discs, so they're easier to throw, and it's a great way to get started. Now, finding a disc golf store can sometimes be difficult. It just depends on the popularity of disc golf in your area. I would suggest doing a quick Google search, but if that doesn't work and there's nothing in your location, I would highly suggest using one of the many online retailers. Now, Amazon does offer discs. They do have those starter packs if that's something you're looking for, but there are also several other true disc golf retailers that I highly recommend. I'll put some of them in the description below, some that I've purchased from that you can trust. Now that you understand what disc golf is, how to play it, the courses and the discs, let's talk about the types of throws. Now, there are 3 ways to throw the disc, and these are the most common and the most used. There are others that exist like tomahawking and rollers, but they're more specific situation type shots, and you're not going to use them that frequently. The first basic form of throwing is putting. So technically, you're not throwing it, you're just putting the disc into the basket. The second form of throwing is the backhand throw, and this type of throw is the most common by far. It's the way most people learn to throw the disc to start. And the third and final type of throw is the forehand throw. I highly recommend starting just with putting and backhand throws and then work your way up to forehands, because forehands can sometimes be more difficult to learn to begin. Now, before you get out to the course, there are a few important tips and rules that I should tell you about. Now, the first thing is that you always need to play your disc as it lies. So you can't move it off to the side to get a better angle. You can't throw ahead of your disc. You always need to have one foot behind your disc before you play your next shot. Moving on to penalties, and you get penalties just like you do in ball golf. So you do have your typical out of bounds and your typical hazard, where if your disc ends up there, you then incur a +1 penalty stroke. The next thing is within 30 feet of the basket, you are not allowed to move forward when you putt. You need to show that you maintain balance throughout the entire putt until the putter has rested in the basket. So if you see someone step forward or move a little bit forward before it has rested in the basket, that putt will not count. And they'll actually get a warning and then a penalty stroke if it happens again. Another thing to note is that you cannot change or adapt your environment to help you with your throw. And what I mean by that is you can't move any objects, you can't break any trees or take down or take off some leaves. You can't do any of that to improve your throw. You just have to make do with the lie that you have. And if you do, you then incur a penalty stroke of +1. All right, so that pretty much sums up what disc golf is and how to play it. I mean, honestly, what more could you ask for out of a sport? It's environmentally friendly, it's free to play, it's cheap. You can bring your friends, you can bring your family, you can bring your own drinks, you can bring your own food, you can be done within an hour and a half. I mean, there are so many reasons to love disc golf. So welcome to the family. If you like this video and you want to know more about disc golf, be sure to hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe for more disc golf content. Anyways, thanks for watching JustDisc, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Merci beaucoup et à bientôt.